Hello, good morning. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here in Seoul, Korea. It's my first time to your beautiful country, and I'm very honored to have been invited. I particularly resonated with the themes touched on by Madam President in her remarks, because my organization, Society for Science and the Public in Washington, D.C., is dedicated to many of the same themes: the importance of innovation and creativity in science, and the importance of reaching not just children, but all members of society, and informal as well as in-school education. So as you've heard, my name is Elizabeth Marinkola. I am president of the nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C., Society for Science and the Public. I also serve as publisher of Science News, which exists in many formats. I'll be telling you more about our magazine and our programs in my remarks. I can't see this. Oh, there we go. Let me see if I've advanced. Okay, have I gotten to the next slide? Good, okay. The mission of Society for Science and the Public is to advance the public engagement in science and education. Its vision is to promote the understanding and appreciation of science and the vital role it plays in human advancement. We summarize this in 3 words: to inform, educate, and inspire. SSP engages in 2 large sets of activities. We have an annual budget of about $25 million, about 60 employees. Roughly half of this is dedicated to our publications, and the other half is dedicated to our competitions. Because Intel is our lead sponsor and sponsors our 2 biggest education programs, people are sometimes confused as to the role and the definition of SSP versus Intel. SSP is an independent nonprofit organization which enjoys the sponsorship and partnership of Intel for our 2 leading education competitions. But we are not a corporate entity, and we are not a division of Intel. We're an independent nonprofit that, again, enjoys the sponsorship and the partnership of Intel. We also have programs that educate teachers, especially teachers of children in poorer communities, of how to engage children in scientific research. We have a newsletter, and we're very active on social media. It says we have 300,000 users. We have actually now over 500,000 followers and fans on Facebook and Twitter. I'd also like to mention, with regard to our magazine, Science News, and our newsletter, I brought several copies. I believe that they're available outside on registration. I hope you enjoy those. I'm showing here some samples of our Science News magazine. We publish it in print every 2 weeks, and it's updated continuously online. The online version at sciencenews.org is available free with no barriers to access. And we cover all fields of science, from the social sciences, physical sciences, life sciences, etc. We also have a version for children and a version for the iPad that I'll talk to you more about now. We are one of the oldest magazines in continuous publication in the United States. We've been publishing in various forms since 1922. And we reach over 10 million readers each year. Science News for Kids is a newer offering. We started publishing almost 10 years ago in 2003. It's meant to reach our middle school audience, ages 9 to 15. We find that we have many readers who are adults, many of whom are teachers and parents looking to support their middle school students. The content on Science News for Kids is based on the more adult content in Science News, but it is rewritten and presented for the younger audience. Science News for Kids reaches 3 million children, parents, and teachers each year. And finally, a little over a year ago, we launched our tablet product, which is known as Science News Prime, and it is available by subscription on the iPad. The iPad's a wonderful tool for science education because, of course, it allows for richer illustration, animations, and updating than the paper publication. These are just some self-promoting quotes about our magazine. We're very well known and very well respected by the intelligent lay reader. You don't need to be a scientist to read science news, but most of our readers are well educated in their fields. Science News is somewhat different from some of the other publications that you may have heard about. Here it's compared on various criteria to some other publications, including Scientific American and Science Magazine. The key elements of Science News, the market niche that we reach, is that we speak to all fields of science, again, from the social sciences to the physical sciences and everything in between. We are impartial reporters of scientific research, and our reporters are representatives of their scientific fields. They are all trained in both science and journalism, so they cover beats in which they themselves are specialized. We also provide current content. This is not a digest, but it's a place where you can go to read about current findings. I'll now talk to you a little bit about our leading science programs. We have the Intel Science Talent Search. As my colleague from Israel indicated, it used to be known years ago in the United States as the Westinghouse Science Talent Search. This is the leading competition for high school seniors in the US. We get about 2,000 students applying for this competition each year. They have to submit a 20-page research paper that's based on original research produced by them. Of those 2,000, we named 300 semifinalists, and of the 300 semifinalists, we named 40 finalists. Each of the semifinalists receive a monetary award of $1,000, and each of their schools also receive a monetary award of the same amount. Perhaps more important for these students at this level is they get bragging rights, because this is just the time that they're applying to selective US colleges, and they're able to say that they were named an Intel Science Talent Search semifinalist or finalist, which signals real excellence to universities that are considering their application. I'm going to skip to our middle school program because I'm going to give a little more time to talk about our international fair, since this is an international audience. Our Broadcom master's program is just a couple of years old. It is open to middle school students in grades 6 to 8. This would be more or less 10, 11, 12 years old. We give away $150,000 in awards, with the top award being $25,000 to a student about 10 years old. So this is a big deal, and it gets a lot of recognition and provides, we hope, much inspiration for children at this age, who we hope to see go on to our high school competitions. Now, I want to talk to you in a little more detail about the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. This is one that may be known to some of you, and we certainly have representation from Korea, as well as Poland, Israel, and other countries that are represented here in this room. Here we showcase about 1,500, over 1,500 students from all years of high school. They are selected by their countries through different mechanisms. Often countries have a national science fair or various channels through which they select their most innovative young researchers. These students gather in the United States in Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, or Phoenix each year, and they compete for $4 million in awards, with the highest award being for $75,000. And these awards we give away each year at the Intel ISEF. 20% of these students either already have a U.S. patent issued or applying for a patent, so the level of their research is adult in every way. In addition to the finalists, we have many local school students from the community who come in by school bus to attend events that we've planned especially for them, as well as to see the student exhibits of our high school finalists, and we hope become inspired by what they do there. So we have, all in all, over 10,000 people attending this 6-day event. Very importantly, we have about 1,000 doctoral level scientists who volunteer their time for a day and a half, and they're the ones who are doing the judging in their field of expertise. Judging is very important for several reasons. One is these students who have performed research at a very high level often haven't had the opportunity to interact with a specialist in their particular field and have a discussion at their level. So the quality and the number of the judges we recruit to help us at Intel ICEF is really key to the success of Intel ICEF. In fact, students, when we interview them after their participation in Intel ICEF, often tell us whether or not they won an award or won recognition at the Intel ICEF, that the best part of their experience there was the opportunity to interact with doctoral level judges in their field. And we recruit these judges from the university community, from industry, from government, from every sector in which scientists reside. We have students from now over 70 countries, regions, and territories, of course, including Korea, and we're proud to tell you that this year, when we held the Intel ICEF in May, we had 17 representatives from your country. So why is it important to gauge the public in scientific research? We feel firmly in the US, and I know this value is shared by those of you in Korea, that no country can truly advance its technology and its economy without an informed citizenship. Democracy is necessary but not sufficient. People need to be participants at a sophisticated level in the considerations of their countries. This depends on full information, and this is one of the purposes of SSP, to help the public attain the information, to help them be responsible decision makers. We find that the non-scientist and the disengaged person from science is at an increasing disadvantage in public discourse when we talk about everything from nutrition to climate change, a basic understanding of science, indeed what is science as opposed to what is something else, such as belief or opinion, is increasingly notable, and we need to help the non-scientists understand how to engage with these issues. So what is in it for the scientists? Why do scientists use their precious time to engage students and other lay members of the public in the questions of scientific research? This picture I like very much, because the gentleman you see there in the picture is the former chairman of the board of SSP. His name is Dudley Hirschbach. He's a chemist at Harvard University, and he won the Nobel Prize in 1986. And every year for over 20 years, he has faithfully come to the Intel ICEF, served as a judge, and interacted with these students for no compensation, for no other reason than he feels that the future of our society and the future of our well-being is dependent on senior scientists engaging the next generation in science. One prominent example, of course, in the issues that non-scientists need to understand something about is global warming or science or climate change. You'll see here that, that the engagement in the public in these issues is important in an ongoing way. This chart shows us that actually in terms of this issue in the US, there's been some backsliding, whereas in 2008, a great majority of the public understood that the climate is changing and that there are complex variables, some of which humans have had an influence on affecting that climate change. The number of people who today will say, or most recently will say, that they acknowledge that climate change is real has declined. So it's not a matter of putting out information and then walking away and doing something different. We have to engage and re-engage and connect with the public continuously. There are other important issues, of course, that come into public focus where scientists are very important in engaging the public. One is embryonic stem cell research. In the United States, we have a continuous conflict between people who wish to teach a creationist view of evolution, that God created the earth a short time ago and put man on the earth, and the concept of natural selection that scientists embrace. And we need to engage students, teachers, and parents so they know that while a religious belief may be legitimate in the context of one's church or place of worship, that's not the same as science, and these concepts should not be displacing science in the classroom. Genetic modification of our crops, the genetics of behavior, and other genetic and neuroscience topics are also very important in the public discourse in areas where we want to make sure that we engage the public and help them through these issues. This is not a one-way street. Scientists have to give their time to talking with, receiving comments from, and having a bilateral discussion with the public. One of the challenges that scientists have undertaken in our recent culture is that they're seen as being above non-scientists, unapproachable, unwilling to talk about people's doubts. And so it's very important that scientists signal to the general public that they're willing to engage in a bilateral conversation, not simply declare what is true and what is not true. So how do we engage in this discussion? We at SSP, of course, engage in all the platforms that I'm sure all of you do. We've been quite successful on social media. As I say, we have over 500,000 friends and fans and followers. We put science news online completely free and without barriers, and we go to different cities in the United States every year with our Intel ISEF so we can engage directly members of the community. We also, and finally, think it's extremely important to engage our decision makers at the very highest levels. President Obama in our country is a very big supporter of science. He cares very much personally. His daughters are interested in science in school, and he understands the importance of innovation for the well-being of our country and of all countries. He has hosted 2 White House science fairs that SSP helped him organize. In the photograph on the left, you see him engaging a high school student. Her name is Samantha Garvey. She did some wonderful research, and the president was extremely interested in hearing about it. One interesting aspect of Samantha Garvey's story is that she overcame a great deal of personal hardship in order to do her science. At the time that she did her science that earned her semi-finalist status in the Intel Science Talent Search, she was homeless. She and her family lived in a shelter in their community in New York. They had been evicted from their homes after their family fell in financial difficulty when both her parents lost their jobs. And notwithstanding the fact that instead of going home to a house. She went home to a shelter. Her teacher was very dedicated to supporting her interest in science. She herself is a bright young woman, very committed, and was able to produce this research notwithstanding her personal difficulties. So we truly feel that science is open to anybody with the right engagement and creativity. On the other side, you can see that President Obama at the White House hosted many science leaders. You will recognize me, but more importantly, to the left of President Obama is Craig Barrett, who is the former chairman of Intel. So he wants very much to signal to the public that science is important and recognized at the very highest levels. And finally, we want to reinforce to those who are scientists and those who are leaders of the science community that it's extremely important to be able to speak in plain words to members of the public about science and the importance of innovation and creativity. And in fact, none other than Albert Einstein probably said it best, that something that we like to call the grandmother test. If you can't explain to your grandmother, I'm paraphrasing his words, if you can't explain to your grandmother in simple terms the importance of your research, then you probably don't understand it well enough yourself. I wish everyone a wonderful conference. I want to thank you again for inviting me to your beautiful country, and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you.